Hey guys, I'm MMA journalist Adam Martin. I'll be taking a deeper look into UFC 264. So we'll start off with the first fight in the main card. It's a bantamweight bout between Sugar Sean O'Malley and UFC newcomer Kris Moutinho. We got to mention it off the top. Kris Moutinho did not get a full training camp for this fight, guys. He's taking it on short notice, filling in for Louis Smolka, who was forced to withdraw due to a staph infection. And this looks like a pretty tough fight for Kris Moutinho. He's coming in here as a huge betting underdog. He's the biggest underdog in the card. And really no surprise, I don't think. Sean O'Malley is obviously one of the top prospects in the UFC bantamweight division. Great striking, huge knockout power, high fight IQ. It seems like this guy has all the makings of a future UFC superstar. Whereas Moutinho, we haven't really seen him fight at this UFC level yet. And looking at his fights in the regional scene, this is a guy that has been stopped quite a few times. I think he's got 4 stoppage losses on the regional scene. That's not a good sign going forward, going to the UFC and fighting someone like Sean O'Malley with as much knockout power as he has. So Kris Moutinho's got an uphill climb in this one, guys. He really does. He's a talented fighter, don't get me wrong. I can see why the UFC brought him in. He's definitely a talented guy. He's got some good skills, but Sean O'Malley is just probably going to be a bit too much for him. So based on the betting line, this looks like a mismatch, but we'll see how it plays out in the cage. A women's bantamweight bout between Yana Kunitskaya and Irene Aldana also takes place on the main card at UFC 264. And neither of these women has fought Amanda Nunes, the champion, yet. So I think the winner of this fight definitely is a play for a title shot. It's not the strongest division in the UFC, and both women, again, are fresh contenders. So it's definitely possible they could be fighting for the belt. Both women have been kind of up and down during the UFC careers. Irene Aldana, she hasn't fought in a while. She lost to Holly Holm the last time we saw her, which was a disappointing loss. Had she won that fight, she'd probably be fighting for the belt right now, but she ended up losing that fight. Having said that, we have seen her get some good wins in the UFC over the course of her career, including a really nice knockout win over Caitlin Vieira, who, ironically, Yana Kunitskaya is coming off a win over her last fight, where she showed off, again, really good ground game, I would say, and also very active on the ground. That's how she's going to want to win this fight. Yana's going to want to take down Irene, beat her on the ground. Irene's going to want to keep it standing, stand and trade, hopefully knock either Yana out or win decision on points. So it's an interesting matchup for sure. You got a striker, you got a grappler in this one. The betting odds for this one are basically close to even. So people are kind of having a hard time figuring out who should be favored to win this fight. I think it's definitely a super close fight based on the style matchup. It should definitely be interesting. And the winner, again, is going to be in play for the title shot 135. Next up, we got a heavyweight bout between Tai Tuivasa and Greg Hardy. And I mean, there's a reason they put this fight in the main card, guys. They're totally expecting someone to get knocked out in this fight. And definitely it seems possible. Tai Tuivasa, huge power, really fast hands. We saw that in the last fight against Harry Hunsucker. We saw it against Stefan Struve. We know his ground game is not great. We saw him get a couple losses in the UFC there, mainly on the ground. Also, he can be beaten by higher level strikers. So Tai's a guy that is kind of like a borderline top 15 guy. And Greg Hardy's kind of like just a little bit below him, I'd say. Greg's kind of looking to get in that top 15, but he's had some tough setbacks. Like in his last fight against Marcin Tybura, gets beaten down, suffers a TKO loss. At times, Greg Hardy's looked good. He obviously is a very good athlete. He's got good striking, got power for sure, but it sure seems like he's a little bit limited as an MMA fighter in totality. So, I mean, Tai Tuivasa is obviously mostly a puncher himself. It's not like he's the most complete fighter in the UFC heavyweight roster as well, but just based on the fact that he's so much more experienced and has fought better competition, has better wins, it seems like Tai should be favored here in this fight. But Greg Hardy, obviously, he's the bigger guy. He's the longer guy. He's going to have some advantages physically. So should be an interesting fight. But yeah, I don't expect this fight to go 3 rounds, guys. Someone's getting knocked out. The co-main event of UFC 264 is an absolutely wonderful welterweight bout between Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson. I love this fight. And the winner, again, will be in play, I think, for that title shot, especially if it's Stephen Thompson at 170 pounds, because he has never fought the champion, Kamaru Usman. Gilbert Burns obviously coming off a loss to Usman in his last fight. He got knocked out, but before that had won 4 straight fights at welterweight, still one of the top guys in the division. Stephen Thompson, though, has been one of the top guys for years and just for whatever reason has never gotten that chance to fight Usman yet. Obviously, he had a couple chances against Cameron Woodley back in the day and lost those fights, but it seems like Thompson's really improved his overall game since then. We already know he was an amazing striker, but his takedown defense really has been shored up the last few years. It's going to need to be in this fight against Gilbert Burns, a guy who's an amazing grappler who's going to clearly want to take the fight to the ground. It should be a really interesting fight to see how this one plays out. On the feet, Thompson obviously is going to have the advantage, I think, in the technique and in terms of volume. But he is also getting up there in age. He's 38 years old, and we did see him get knocked out by Anthony Pettis a few years back. It's possible that, Burns catches him on the right spot, he could put him out. I think a lot of people are just kind of ignoring the fact that Gilbert's got power, but at the same time, when you talk about the pure technique and you talk about the pure striking abilities of these guys, it is night and day. I mean, Stephen Thompson's right at the top of the division. But again, this is MMA, and Burns has an amazing ground game, huge power. So Should be a really interesting fight. The betting odds have Thompson as a small favorite in this fight, but Gilbert will definitely get some respect, and it should be an awesome fight to see play out, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this one. The main event of UFC 264 is a 5-round lightweight bout between Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. It's a trilogy fight between these two arch rivals. They fought twice before, obviously. The first time they met was in 2014, UFC 178. The fight took place at 145 pounds. Conor McGregor won the fight via first-round knockout. Obviously went on to become the champion and beat Jose Aldo. Went on to become a champion at 155. The last few years, Conor hasn't been that active. He's only fought basically once a year. He obviously had the boxing match with Floyd a few years ago as well. So he hasn't been as active, but it's still Conor McGregor. It's still one of the biggest superstars, the biggest names we've ever seen in the sport, and a guy with huge knockout powers we've seen time and time again. That being said, he's taking on Dustin Poirier here, and they just fought at UFC 257 earlier this year, and Dustin returned the favor with a knockout of his own, second round TKO, and he showed an amazing performance, a complete performance in that fight, and I think he did show that he's probably the more well-rounded MMA fighter because he showed off some grappling, he showed off striking, and not only that, he didn't just show off his punching, which he did win the fight via punches, but he also showed off those calf kicks, which obviously gave McGregor a lot of issues, and it should be interesting to see how McGregor adjusts to that in this third fight. There's a lot on the line here, guys. Obviously, there's a lot of money to be made. So these guys are fighting for a lot of money, but more importantly, they're fighting for eternal bragging rights. The winner of this fight will be able to say, I beat the other guy 2-1 forever. So this is a huge fight between these two guys. They're bitter rivals. Not only that, the winner of this fight will probably get a title shot against UFC lightweight champion Charles Oliveira. So this is going to be an amazing fight. It's scheduled for 5 rounds. I don't really think it goes the full 5. The first 2 fights didn't. I don't really see this one going that far either. The betting odds are very close. It was essentially a pick'em for like the last few months. Now you're starting to see a little bit more action coming on Dustin, and he's a small favorite here, but it's a very, very competitive fight, guys. I cannot wait to see this fight. It's going to be amazing. UFC 264 takes place Saturday. Get your picks in on the Fanatics Fantasy app, and I'll see you guys on Saturday night. Hopefully we get some great fights. Take care.